Topic 2 of the day, brought to you by Patreon. Once again, my boy Kenny Char. Kenny Char says, what are games you enjoy in genres that you typically don't? I've never particularly been an FPS fan, but Wolfenstein The New Order was probably my second favorite game of 2014 after Shovel Knight. I was wondering if you guys had any similar experiences.
The one that always stands out for me is Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, right? Like, that is a game that on paper I don't think I should enjoy. It's in this mythical world with these characters that are all made up and bullshit that I shouldn't care anything about, but the gameplay was so good that I just totally fell down the rabbit hole with that one of like playing it nonstop. And I guess it's kind of an out because, you know, it's a Western role-playing game, but like, again, it's the setting that gets me off.
Yeah.
But like, you know, I did enjoy The Witcher for whatever, I don't remember. I look at Colin like he's got the best memory for our relationship. Colin has the best memory of whatever it was, like 50 hours or 35. I forgot what I clocked it at back in the day. But like, I enjoyed The Witcher and like that. But it's like there's so many other ones that come around of like Shadows of Mordor. I'm like, no, this is not my kind of game. I played for a little bit. I get the mechanics, but that's not my world. That's not the world I want to exist in. But man, I loved Amalur so goddamn much, and it was such a fantastic game. And to run through and play it and just sink hour after hour and hour into it, buy the DLC and play that and have a great time.
Yeah,
like that was a game that caught me off guard with how much I liked it.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of working backwards from thinking about genres that I don't typically like, and so like racing games comes to mind, and Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2, but specifically 1, like I was addicted to, and I played that. Like, I'm not a big car guy overall, so I don't know what it was about it that really like hooked me, but I think it was the combination of the tone of the game and the soundtrack and just the look of it, and like that game was really kind of a really nice presentation piece for the PS2 back then, when it was like, that's a game that looked awesome. People would come over and see it and be like, damn, video games are crazy now. You know, Gran Turismo 3 was like the real example of that, but that was way too hardcore for me.
Sure.
Like, I rented that and I'm like, not for me. I cruised around in my PT Cruiser for a bit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, wow. You're right there.
I was like, no, I'm not into this. But Need for Speed Underground, that game I played for hours and hours, and then my brother played through it, and like it was one of those games specifically for him, and I experienced this, where he would play through the whole career and then delete his save, do it again, delete his, and it's just like that game hooks people in a weird way.
Yeah. Another one, when you started talking about that, it brought it up for me because you always talk about it. Like, I never connected with Tony Hawk. Like, when it was just Tony Hawk, never did. But then I went to a friend's house who bought Thug on day one, and I was watching that, and I was like, damn, this looks fucking awesome. And I went out and bought Thug and put so many hours into that, running around being stupid.
So what was it about Thug
that felt
won
like,
out over Tony Hawk?
That felt to me, and this is at a passing glance growing up of what the Tony Hawk and the Pro Skater game was like, this one felt like it had a world and a story to an extent, or there was like more there was a personality to it, whereas before it was like, let's get combos, let's get scores, and that never spoke to me. But opening it up and putting it into a world and like being the precursor to what Skate would become, it's like, okay, cool, this I like, because like Skate I always liked it because I started as a shitty ass skater, and I'm like, I'm bad at these games. So that was the same idea, right? Of then skating around, getting missions, doing these different things.
Yeah, I mean, I love Thug, but you know, it's just that's funny because to me the THPS games are way superior because of their simplicity. Thug was the first game to add gameplay mechanics that didn't work right,
got you off the board and stuff like that. Yeah.
Tony Hawk 1, it got it down. Tony Hawk 2 out of the manual, 3 out of the revert, 4 out of the spine transfer. Those are all key to the gameplay being fun. Thug added the getting off your board, and I was just like, it just never felt right. But it did add the story, and it added a lot more customization. I think a big thing about those games was the being able to create your own park, be able to create your own skater, which back then was a big deal. You know, like not everything had a creative mode. Yeah. Tony Hawk was all about that, and by the time you got to Thug, you could literally create your own moves, create your own game, you create your own missions, create your own everything. And I think that the fact that you were you in the game instead of
random guy from a skate video I've never heard of.
Exactly, Bob
you
Burnquist.
You haven't been on Jackass yet. I don't know who you are.
Yeah, and also all the Jackass elements. I think that's when it really, and especially with Thug too, but it kind of introduced a lot that we saw in Tony Hawk 4 being like hinted at. Yeah. And yeah, that's very interesting, Greg.
Thank you. I like to interest you once in a while.
What about you, Cole?
It's rare.
I think that there's probably an example of a game or games in every genre that I wouldn't typically like that genre, but like the games. Racing's a good example. I mean, but more in an arcadey sense. Like I really love like Race the Sun or something like that. Back in the day, Hot Pursuit 2 was like, I played the shit out of that game. I loved that game. I loved the soundtrack in that game.
Got that fever for the flavor?
Yeah, Hot Action Cop. I went and bought Hot Action Cop's record. I was one of 5 people that bought that record.
I do too, with the cover with the girl's butt on it. Big fan.
Doom Boom, the opening track. I love that fucking song. There are examples of that. I think Civilization 5 always sticks out to me. These are games that I should like, but I just, and I mean similar kind of games to these kind of more Sid Meier Civilization games. But I've gone and played some of the other ones and tried them, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, for me, like, I love Civilization. I just love that. I love Civilization, but not necessarily the genre. I mean, there are adventure games I like. I think I've actually had a little bit of a renaissance with adventure games, and this is going to be a weird thing to say, but I don't, like, we've talked about in the past, I don't like these obtuse-ass fucking adventure games that feel like they're a job. You know, like, where I'm like, what? I don't know how this candle interacts with this. Like, I don't fucking know what you want me to do. Like,
Grim
this
Fandango.
Yeah, like, I'm like,
that,
I appreciate that people like those games. I'm just like, this is. I remember when we played Grim Fandango when it came to PS4, right when we launched, we were streaming it, and I'm like, this game kind of like, I don't know, why would you want to play this? Like, you know, and I'm like, you have to go back and I'm like, all right, so, and I appreciate why people, you know, that people like them, but it wasn't for me yet. Gone Home's an adventure game, you know, like.
Walking Dead, right?
Yeah, the Walking Deads are so they're different kinds of adventure games, but they are adventure games at their core. And so these walking simulator type games, I like them because I think that that you have the story elements that these adventure games really excelled at without me having to, like, you know, bang my head against the wall because I just don't play these games well. But I've you know, I've encountered adventure games in the past that were fine too. I think the same thing with puzzle games. Like, I don't typically gravitate towards those, but like I really love Dr. Mario, for instance, like, and I'm fucking nasty at it, by the way. And Tetris, we saw it at the bar, like, when I was playing Dr.
He was clowning some drunk guy out. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what he was up against.
And you know, Tetris and all those kinds of things. So I don't like like, I like playing puzzle games every once in a while. Like Critter Crunch was really fun.
Critter Crunch was really good.
I love the animation in that game.
Yeah, it's a very pretty game, very vivid game. But I don't typically, you know, gravitate towards those kinds of games. But every once in a while, something like that, you know, comes out that I'm like, okay, I'll play a puzzle game. I would, and right now I'm playing Inside, and that's not a game. You know, that's an adventure game, and that's not really a puzzle. Oh, okay. Limbo. And that's like kind of an adventure game or a puzzle game, really more of a puzzle game with you know, puzzle platformer. And that's like, if someone's like, you want to play a puzzle platform? I'd be like, no. And actually, like, I'm Inside in like these kinds of games. Like, I just don't like. I like progressing, right? Like, I just like, even if the game's hard, even if I'm playing Call of Duty on the hardest difficulty level and I'm dying over and over again, I know I'm gonna get past it, you know. And in Castlevania or Metroidvania game, if I can't find the way forward, I'll figure it out. In these kinds of games, I'm like, I'll sit there for 5 minutes and be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and I'll like go on YouTube and look. It's so
funny
because I don't care. Like, I don't find satisfaction on being like sitting there, like 45 minutes later, like, oh, you know, put this there, and I'm like, I don't.
Of course, I should have waited for that.
That's just not why I particularly play games. I like hard games that are mechanically difficult.
No, for sure. That's funny you bring up Metroidvanias as being an example of different than them, because I think that they're quite similar in terms of like to like Limbo or Inside. Where, like, I would say that Metroidvania in a lot of ways are puzzle platformers. You know, it's like trying to figure out how to progress, and like there's doors and stuff that you can't get through yet, and it's like it's a bit more simple. But when you really think back to like the puzzle elements of Limbo or Inside, they're similar.
But that's the I think the word is, and it's not meant in a pejorative way towards myself, but it's simple, right? Like, if you think about Symphony of the Night, you come across these caged doors, right? And there's a few of them, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do here. And then you get the mist ability, and you're like, oh, now all of those puzzles are solved.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. Or like these sealed off doors that you need. Or you like see a thing where it's like you can't jump to it, you need the double jump or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, that solves literally 15 different things that I had to do. And I remember where those things are on the map. So yeah, they're similar, maybe genetically come from the same place, but a way more mechanically driven, backtracking, satisfying thing for me, as opposed to saying like,
no, I'm with you, because you figure in an adventure game, you never know if you have the solution. It's easy enough to be like, I feel like I've done everything I could possibly do to get to that platform. There must be a jetpack or a double jumper or whatever. Where in an adventure game, it's like, yeah, oh, how would I have known to wait for that light to turn green and take this piece of bologna and throw it over there? Which
I'm sorry, I'm not talking about adventure games.
Oh, it's my apologies.
I'm talking about the
just puzzle stuff?
Puzzle platformers, like the Limbos, Insides versus a Metroidvania.
But even a Limbo or Inside, I feel like you're running into you dead end at one point, right? Like when I got the one for me in Inside, not a spoiler, well, whatever. When you have to swim under the door or whatever as it moves, right? I got there, and when I couldn't figure it out, I started getting I sat there and I'm like, I have it with me. It's the same idea, right? Like where it's like you can get around a double jump you can't get to. You're like, oh, I must not be able to go there yet. I'm going to double back and try to figure something out or go up elsewhere on the map. Whereas this is like, I have to keep going that way. So I clearly have what I need, but how do I figure out how to do it?
Yeah. Trying to think of other ones. I think an example of this topic, but in a different way, is Fire Emblem, because I would have never thought that I would like strategy RPGs at all.
That's a good one. That was the same thing with me, like Valkyria Chronicles.
And then I got into it. I'm like, holy shit, I love this.
Yeah.
And it was a perfect example because I only played it because of Smash Bros. Because I liked Marth so much. And then I was like, all right, cool. I want to figure out the game he's from. Playing it, and I was like, when I saw videos of it, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to like this. Fell in love with it, played Advanced Wars after, and like now I'm like, holy shit, that's one of my favorite genres because it is so satisfying and there's so much depth there, and it makes you feel like you're doing something that with the story elements on top of it. I think that it's a really, really excellent genre to get into that I think a lot of people wouldn't think they'd be into.
Yeah, I think strategy RPGs. It's funny because I'm very particular about them. Like I don't like Fire Emblem. Like I remember trying. I think it was Awakening, and I'm like, there's just something wrong about this. And then what I realized was that like I basically just like the Square Enix style strategy role playing games and pretty much nothing else. Like when I think about the three hallmarks for me in that genre, and these are three series I fucking adore, is like Final Fantasy Tactics, obviously, and Tactics Ogre, and Front Mission, which is a series I hold very near and dear to my heart, and they shit on that series like they do everything else over there. But like these very deep grid-based tactical role-playing games that have a very specific way of playing them. That's the thing that ties them all together. In a way, like Final Fantasy Tactics and like Let Us Cling Together are like almost indistinguishable. You know, and that's fine for me. Like I love these very basic, in premise but very deep strategy role-playing games. And for me, Fire Emblem just doesn't do it for me. Like I've tried a few times, and I'm just like, I don't know what it is about it. I think a lot of it has to do, at least back in the day, with like it's kind of linear in the sense that like it doesn't seem very grindy. It didn't seem like very like super granular and class based to a fucking nth degree. Like these really, like when you get really deep in Final Fantasy Tactics and you're like a mathematician or something like that, or you're a dancer and stuff like that, like, and you have to figure out like how the like, but you don't have to use these classes. These are really weird, obtuse classes. You can be your white mage or your time mage and stuff like that. I like that kind of shit. That's why I'm so sad. Like I'm kind of reformed from that genre because there actually hasn't been a game probably since Let Us Cling Together on PSP or like Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced and Advanced 2 where I'm like, I even played them. You know?
Did you play any of the Disgaea games?
Yeah, Disgaea. Yeah, so Disgaea doesn't do it for me either for multiple reasons. The stacking is really weird in that game. I don't understand that. These like these super ridiculous damage numbers. I'm like, well, that's what I always loved about Dragon Quest, where it's like you have 10 hit points when you start the game or 12 hit points. Why do I have like 5 million hit points? You know, why is this guy doing 9 billion damage? It's like, why can't you just make it all like normal? You know, so this guy, this guy is charming, but and very popular, but yeah, not for me either. The last one I played was 3, I think. So,
shout out to DC Universe Online. Not even the joking sense. I throw it out as a joke all the time, but like I'd never given a shit about an MMO before, but there I was like, now what, 700 hours in my life to that game, like. Granted, it was subject material that I obviously have a hard on for, but it's just a game genre that for sure never spoke to me before.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it. I can't really think of too many others. So there you go, Kenny Char. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your
supporting
support.
us on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames.